Welcome to our 24/7 English. No one is more clear about the difficulty of English than you. When it tells you need a teacher, that you can only learn with others, that you must live in an English-speaking place. What would have happened if I told you that all of these are wrong? If I said that you can use English everywhere every day, even if you're on your own? Even if the people in your town don't speak one word of English, even when you're frightened. This is not something tricky. It's not a substitute for hard work, but instead, the truth. You have the tools right in your hands, just as you used to. I'm going to help you to remember how to use them today. So stick with me, because when the video is over, you will not only listen to English, but also talk it. I still remember the first time I dared to speak English. I was alone in my room. I looked in the mirror and said, "I am," then faltered. For a long while I did not know what to say after that. My voice sounded very small. My words were weaker than that. Even if I were saying it right, I didn't know. No one was there, but I still felt shy. I looked at myself again. This time I did not stop. "My name is Ariel," I said again. I added another sentence to it, then one more. "I am a pupil. My hometown is in a tiny place." The sentences were far from perfect, but they were my own. And having said these tiny steps, now everything had changed. I had always been waiting for someone to come and help me. A teacher, a classmate, or a class itself. I realized this really important point that day. I didn't have to wait any longer. It's English I can talk about now, right now. My mouth is free. My thoughts are ready. I don't need a partner. I don't need anybody's permission. I just need to make up my mind to speak. So I began to talk. I spoke slowly. I mumbled. Just a little bit each time. One or two simple things just stuck out in my mind. I'm hungry. It's sunny today. I've got 2 books. These were not big sentences, but they were mine. I felt self-confident when speaking to them. More than that, each time I said them out loud, I felt a little less afraid. At first, it was the strangest feeling. I'd have a look around. Was anyone paying attention? Would someone laugh? But there was nobody, just me. And I saw that this was the best way to begin. I would not be judged. Nobody would stop me. I could make a mistake. I could try again. I could practice out loud, just as do those kids learning to speak. I was walking around the house talking. I opened the door and said, "I'm opening the door." I picked up a spoon, and then I said, "This is a spoon." I made tea and said, "I'm making tea." It was fun. It seemed a bit like a game. I started getting a kick out of it. I began to look for things to say. I was learning from everything. One day I went outside. I walked in an English whisper down the street. The sky is blue. I see a dog. That man has on a black hat. I was building my language one sentence at a time. No books of grammar, no long lectures. They were just words, real words from real life spoken by me. And then something wonderful happened. I began to think in English, just a little bit. Not all the time, but sometimes when I looked at something, the English word would come. I saw a tree and thought tree, not the word in my mother tongue. That was the moment when I knew it was working. Speaking out loud had changed my mind. My brain was starting to believe now that English was part of me. I didn't need hours every day. In fact, all that was necessary was 12. To be exact, if you're in a hurry, that's still enough time between TV programs, just 10 minutes at either end of the day, or only 1 minute before supper. The secret wasn't in time. The secret was continuity. Every day, every single day, a sentence or two, one voice, was yours. I had no plan to follow. I didn't follow a specific pattern. I just spoke whatever I saw, whatever I felt, and whatever I did. I am sleepy. I want to go to bed. I like chocolate. Noise makes me nervous. These were my thoughts. These were my feelings, and now I was saying them in English, slowly, gently, but clearly and very bravely. To speak by myself helped me more than expected. It was free. It was secure. It was always with me at home, out at the bus stop, and in the shower. Before I slept or while cooking, it was also my own teacher, listener, and partner. And you can be too. If you would start at this moment, a single sentence. Start now and talk. Say it out loud. Say it to yourself. Say it as though none other than you were saying it. That was my flash, because I am going to speak English. I am determined to speak. I can manage it. Say it time and again until your mouth gets used to it. Until your voice quits shaking, right? Until your heart tells you, yes, this is who I am now. This is what I want to do. The day that I began speaking English to myself was an important day for my progress. Not just looking at pictures or reading words on the page. I was experiencing the language, speaking it, feeling it, and owning it. And now, so can you. Ott stopped there. After that first day, I spoke to myself. The sound was much better, and I was not so timorous either. I began speaking more frequently. It was no longer just about what I saw, but also about how I felt. I'm feeling tired today. Feel delighted because I've just finished my job. I'm sad, but I'm fine. They were my real feelings, and now they were spoken in English. Originally, I felt a little silly. Talking to oneself, consider it to be silly. Then I wondered after a while. But everyone talks to themselves. We all think, what if I say very quickly in my head? The way I practiced it changed like that. I started speaking not only from my mouth but also in my mind. I saw a table and went on to explain everything around me. This is my chair. My bag is on the floor. The fan is turning slowly. I did it as a habit. I used English each time I noticed something. When I opened a drawer, this drawer is full of paper. Picking up a book, it's my English book. Looking out through, the street is very quiet. Every little thing became a chance for speaking. And I did not stop there. I began to ask myself questions. So I wanted to eat what? My pen. Where's that gone? Did you complete your homework? I answered. I would like rice for dinner. I have it lying on the table too. Yes, I got my homework done all right. It was rather like talking with yourself. And guess what? It did work very well. My confidence grew. If I wanted to practice with someone, I no longer had to wait. I became my own speaking partner of English. When I couldn't sleep, I told myself a short English story. While I was cooking, I edited the recipe into English as well. Now I cut the onions. Now I boil the water. Now I blend the herbs. It may sound simple, but these sentences made an important difference. I was educating my brain to think and talk in English. Sometimes I would laugh at myself. Sometimes I would be wrong. I'd say the wrong word, maybe I couldn't even think of the right one, but nothing mattered because I was learning quickly then. I didn't feel pressure or fear as well. It wasn't there. There wasn't even a requirement to judge me, which is why I felt so secure. One more thing I did to help with this language was I stand in front of the looking glass and look myself right in the eye. Also, I said, "You are learning English. Great job. You are brave." These words were like a kind of magic. They put a lot of charge into me. It really made me feel like I could do anything. I wanted to see next, so I smiled at myself. Mirror, mirror on the wall, I'd like to pass whole sentences. It ate only the lines on 2 mirrors. I repeat them to myself. In the end, I did feel that I had a partner, a teacher, and a friend with myself in those mirrors. The most important, I could practice with it at any time of day or night. 1 or 2 minutes was enough. I could talk. I could whisper. I couldn't even think it. I didn't need the absolute right location. I didn't need to get things just right. That's how I began talking on my way out the door while walking down the steps, in the bathroom, brushing my teeth, doing laundry, and getting dressed. I looked at things and said what they were. I said what I was doing. I said how I felt. My world became my place of tuition. My life became weigh it out. And something wonderful started to occur. My thoughts in English went deeper. My sentences became smoother. For every word, I didn't have to mourn. They started running like rivers. I can say, I'm off to market. I need a little fruit. Maybe I should go for apples and bananas now. And after I get back home, then I could brew a pot of tea. They're not taken from any book. That's what my real thoughts are. My thoughts voiced in my voice. That's when I got the importance of something. English is not just for learning. It's for using. It's for creating. And the more I made, the better the results. I was ever getting more pleased. That's where I wanted to speak English. I wanted to say a little more. I wanted to express a little more. I wanted to practice a little more. And I was still the last man ready for the next move. I talked in English every day. But every day, there were some that were missed. Every day, there were others that were just too busy for me. On some days, I just didn't feel like it. Then I discovered that if I wanted to carry on so as not to stop altogether, I needed a simple habit that would remind me to speak English even when I was tired or ill-prepared. Therefore, I devised myself a new plan. It was nothing complicated, not much at all. Just a few minutes every day and always at the same time. But what would this have been? I chose the morning. As soon as I brushed my teeth, I turned, and in the mirror I would then say, "Good morning. Today's fresh. Today's fresh. To you it matters not. This morning I am speaking English." It is a very simple thing, but it allowed me to start. That one line opens up a door, and after that first sentence, The second one is much easier. It talked about my plans for today. Today, I'll be studying. There is some cleaning to do in my room. I want to read a book. And just like that, I had practiced English for 5 minutes. Before breakfast, long ahead of anything else, I called this a revolt. In English, what is the difference between a firm whisper and a fleeting combination? And we heard this just a few moments ago. I practice. Before heading out the door, away to school, or wherever you could think of, I practice my lines. You can find your own trigger any time. It might be when you make your tea, or when you take a notebook out, or when you unlock your cell phone. Lightning is a small moment that you get every single day. Attach to this your English practice. Make it a part of your routine so it's not a choice. That's just what you do. After a few short days, it was completely natural. I no longer had to think of it. I didn't need to make any plans. I just did it. I brushed my teeth, and then I spoke. Without intending to, I was going with a mug. I took a walk, and I spoke too. That habit was growing, I could tell. My mouth was quicker. More time. It would only take to come out with a word. More firm my voice was. No longer did I have to go through the agony, because it was not so painful anymore. Not anymore was I the one to make an end. This was now just an automatic part of me. Then I tried out one more change. I started using my mobile to help me out. Every time I pulled out my phone, I was duty-bound to speak one English sentence. The sentence could be anything. I want to check the weather. I'm going to read my email. I'm off to watch a video. It was very easy and very quick, but really quite strong because I opened my phone many times a day. By this means I got a little more English sparking off every time. It made me think in English, made me speak more, and the most important fact was I didn't need any spare time. I never had to tune in to watch any lesson. This way I went along with it. I did it while doing all my normal activities during the day. I never had to interrupt those activities. No need to stop what you are doing. No need to set aside a whole lot of time. Just insert English into what you're already doing. And that's the key. You don't need 2 hours a day. You don't need to be in the middle of a longer show. You only need to work with every moment, whether it's 5 minutes here or 1 minute there. If you're doing it every day, then it becomes a habit, which in turn evolves into your routine, your path. And I made a small test that this rigidness was forced to take over. It was the 10-sentence rule. Every day, each one should say out loud to themselves 10 sentences in English. It wouldn't matter where, it wouldn't matter how. Just 10 sentences were what I wanted to have. There were days when I gave more. There were other days when I only said 10, but I never forgot, day by day, and step by slow step, then those. 10 sentences turned into 20, 30, and then on my own I could stage full conversations. Some days I even gave myself small topics. Talk about your breakfast plan. Describe what it looks like in the room. Maybe you tell about what really happened yesterday. I closed my eyes and imagined I was talking to someone. I made out their face. I concluded the story as they would. I played that I spoke. I imagined that I examined it. In practice, I was becoming more proficient. For a thing like this, I felt proud. Because I was taking a tangible, not imaginary course of action. I didn't have to wait for anyone. I didn't have to find a partner. I didn't need to have a just right sentence. I simply had to show every time I was there, each time I was practicing, and each time I was talking. Then, day after day, my system got stronger, my trigger got more effective, and my sentences gained more length. And now, my English was that much better, so that at last, I could really hear myself. One morning after I had done 10 sentences, I stopped. I asked myself a question. What do you understand and say? Curiosity had gotten the better of me. I wanted to answer myself. I had been speaking every day. I could say sentences with increasing speed, but always there was that lasting discomfort. I never knew what I actually sounded like. So one day when I got all by myself out into the forest, I went up over the ridge of that forest, and then I spoke. My name is Ariel. I come from a small town. I find English quite a mistress. I really wish I could go home to a city like that, because that city is. Then I stopped. I pressed play and listened. First off, I was anxious. My voice seems quite odd to me. I was mistaken repeatedly. I felt awkward as well. However, I kept on. I never stopped. I listened again. And something in the midst turned. The beautiful narrative they used to say about me I got to listen to again. My words were actually clear. My sentences made sense too. They were all complete. At least it made me feel tough then. The next morning, I listened to what I'd recorded the day before. My sentences were slower. My words were softer. You could hear the difference in just 2 weeks. It was working. Speaking every day was working. Recording my voice was working because I could hear my own progress. Sometimes I listened and repeated right away. I said a sentence, then I listened, then I said it again. I copied myself. I made the same sound stronger, clearer, and more natural. It felt like polishing a stone. Bit by bit, I made it shine. I also started to copy native speakers. I found short videos online, 1-minute clips. I played a sentence. I paused. I repeated it out loud. Then I recorded myself saying it. I compared. How close was my version? Did I say it like them? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But every time I learned something. Because learning became enjoyable in this way. I didn't feel like I was studying, but rather like I was playing, like I was learning a song, like I was part of the rhythm, the beat of English, the confidence of something. I didn't use hard grammar books. I didn't memorize long word lists. I just recorded myself and listened from the heart, not with caution. I grew slowly but surely. Some people would wait to speak until they felt ready, until they felt perfect. But that day never arrives. You don't get ready first. You get ready by doing, by trying, by recording, by listening, and by improving. I didn't have a microphone. I only had my voice. But that was enough. And if I could do it, then so can you. Open your phone. Find the voice recorder. Do not fear. Do not be critical. Just listen. You'd be surprised. What you hear there could be the sound of bravery. Do it every day, a little more, a little louder, a little stronger. One day, you'll listen to these recordings and smile because you won't just sound different. You will feel like a different person. And when that time comes, you will want to talk to more than just yourself. After several weeks of recording my voice, I wanted to move beyond that. I wanted to put my English to use in real situations, but there was no one to talk to. So I created these situations for myself. I started to invent conversations. I began to live inside little stories, stories that were made of me alone, of my own words. In my room, I sat as if I were in a cafe. I could pretend a waiter comes to my table. Looking at an empty chair, I'd say, "Hello, I'll take a coffee, please." Then I waited for the reply in my heart. I also replied, "Sure. Do you want milk and sugar? Here's just milk, thanks." I kept on like this. I pretended that I was carrying on a conversation with myself, and there was no one else in the room. At first it felt odd, but soon it became thrilling. I had become a character. I was clearly articulating ideas. I was selecting my words. I was giving feedback. Through me, everything was practiced. Some sentences, listening and thinking. Most importantly, speaking. I did this every day. Sometimes I was a customer, other times I was a teacher, and once I was a traveler. I pretended that I was at the airport. "Excuse me, where is gate number 10? Then I imagined the response. "Straight ahead, then to your left." I also inquired, "How long is the flight?" Then I gave my answer. "It's about 6 hours." These small slices of life gave me. They made English practical. And most importantly, I hadn't used any. Probably I didn't need to either. No app, no book, only my brain, only my mouth. I could do it while walking, while lying in bed, or while cooking. I brought English into my life, and what I created made me stronger. I also started to use what was around me. I held a spoon and pretended that I was teaching the language. "This is a spoon. We use it to eat soup," I stated. I picked up a book. "This book is interesting. It's about history." I checked the clock. "It's 5:30 p.m. I have to leave now." I always look at the door. "Could you open the door for me?" After the question came the answer. "Sure, here it is." I turned my room into my own performance stage and transformed the things in my room into my own tools. I was learning through living. This made me courageous. I wasn't afraid to speak anymore because I was speaking every day. And when you do something day in and day out, it soon becomes the norm. It becomes easy. Even if I made an error, I didn't stop. I smiled and tried again. I was becoming more proficient at the time. I was aware of it. One evening, I went out for a stroll. I passed by a shop, and looking in at the window, I simulated a scene. "Sorry, how much does this bag of yours cost?" I paused. I responded, "It's $20. Then I queried further, "Do you have it in black?" As I walked along, I was smiling. The people around me were unaware of it, but in my brain, I was carrying on a full English discussion, and on occasion, out loud. That was the thing I liked. I could practice at any time, anywhere. I didn't need a classroom, any automobiles or people. I had myself. and that was enough. Each day I chose a new scene, a market, a train station, a job interview, or a family dinner. I asked questions, gave answers, and described things. I made errors. I laughed at them. Then I tried again. Another result I noticed was that the more I imagined, the more quickly I responded. I didn't pause. I no longer had to search for words in my head anymore. My mouth began to speak naturally. I wasn't simply learning words. I was also learning to flow, to construe, and to feel. This is exactly what real chat is, and bit by bit, something truly terrific. Myself starting to enjoy it. No longer just the learning, but the speaking. It was not just practice anymore. Speaking was becoming part of my life. I waited to use English no longer. I had already started. Now I wanted to take things one step further. I wanted to look into my own eyes at myself and speak with embellishment. I stood up in front of a mirror. I eyed myself. Not only my face, not only my mouth, but my eyes too. I stood still and took a deep breath. "You can do it," I said to myself. At first I whispered. My voice was low. I wasn't certain, but I said it again. "You can do it." And then once more, a little louder. "You are learning English, and you are doing very well." I kept looking into my eyes and kept talking. Don't be scared. Keep speaking. Keep experimenting. Keep making progress. Not only was I informing, I was also really feeling every single word. That mirror became mindies. It didn't judge me. It didn't laugh at me, at my culture. It didn't correct me. It just listened. And in that mirror I saw a tough man, someone daring, someone kind. I made use of that mirror every day, generally in the morning and just before my bedtime. I did complete sentences this time. I am proud of myself. I improve every day. I may not be perfect, but I'm getting better. I sold them with strength. I added emotion. I used my hands, my face, and my eyes. I smiled when I had something nice to say, yet when there was a hitch, I looked grave. I practiced more than just the words. I strove to capture the essence of the words in my readings, and most importantly, speaking. For this changed everything. For English is not solely a language. It is also emotion. It is the way you sound. It is an entire physical matter. When you talk to someone else, your eyes talk too. Can you speak with your hands? Your mouth speaks too. Your smile speaks too. I practiced all these things in front of the mirror and soon became part of a cast involved in learning the way I learned, looking at actors and watching videos. I'd been talking to myself in front of the mirror, cultivating my confidence, but I wanted more. I wanted to hear English from the mouths of men and women from the West and implement it myself. I turned to video, short ones on YouTube, TV broadcasts, and movies. I wasn't watching for entertainment, but for the sake of learning. I took one scene, just 1 minute. I listened to the first sentence. I paused. I repeated it loudly. By yourself, and then I got the next sentence. I paused. I repeated it. I did this again and again until the entire scene was mine. I felt like I was participating in the performance myself. I assimilated the character. I also studied the tone, the emotion, and the speed. I spoke with energy. I didn't just say the words, I was saying every one of them. If the character laughed, I laughed. If they were serious, I was too. It felt as if I was no longer alone. It felt like I was part of a real conversation. I also used subtitles. First, I watched it as it came out on January 1st, 1001. Then, I turned on the English subtitles. I listened as I read simultaneously. I turned off listening to the voice. I'd try to understand without reading. And finally, I started with the video. This is called post-speech. I speak when I speak. No voice works. You follow like a shadow. It was powerful because you talk like native speakers. You copy their flow and their sound effects. I also used songs. I chose songs that I liked, ones that were slow and clear. Then I listened to one line, I read the line, then I sang it. As long as I didn't understand all the words, I would continue to sing. This is because music makes words easy to remember. They are written to percent, not one's memory. It serves to help you to 2% pronunciation flows more smoothly. Most of all, it is fun. There was a song I loved. I sampled that song every day. I learned all the words. I sang on the street. I sang while I was cooking in my house. I sang even when I was lying on my bed. I had no regard for whether or not I was in tune. I had no regard for whether or not there was anyone listening in the end. In every single line, I bristled with enthusiasm. I wasn't just using language. I was taking it in. Sometimes I made printable figures from cartoons. The voices were slower, clearer, and easier to listen to. I copied them. I acted as they did. Sometimes my voice changes. I also change my voice. From time to time I laughed along with them. I cried with them or talked to them. Every episode became another step toward a change with new content. One time I came upon a clip where two friends were having a conversation in a cafe. I really liked it. So I memorized it. I would be the only other person in that scene. I paused, and I became one friend. You go first. The next took place after I was the other friend. Yes, I'll have a mocha coffee. It was as if I were performing in a show, and yet in reality, I was seriously studying to change, hopefully in every genre. I repeated the same scene every day until I no longer needed to look at it. This scene became my own. I did not need the big screen. I did not need a computer. I was on my phone. I picked up my earbuds and whispered my remarks on the street. No one saw it, but I was learning a second every free moment. The best thing is that I also know more. I caught elitus in other videos. I repeat, kinky child, snigs. I left the sentence in my mouth in real life. It was part of me. I certainly was not heavy or complicated, but light and simply attendable. I wasn't a student anymore. I was a speaker. I was part of the language. One ESCO through my voice, one benefit, ACHHDA. And when I looked back, I smiled. I had started quietly by myself, but what if I wanted to talk to the whole world now? I could copy native speakers, and I appreciated the music of English, its color and climate. and I was about to undertake an even greater task, to stop translating itself in the brain and begin thinking in English. I was speaking more, I was singing more, and I was repeating more. But sometimes I would still stop because I didn't really feel like speaking. There was something wrong. I thought in my language. I looked up the English word, and then I said it. For a while I was slow. I was sluggish. I wanted to speak faster. But my thoughts held me back. From then on, I understood something very profound. If I want to speak fluently, I have to avoid translating in my head altogether. English has to come to mind spontaneously. At first, this seemed impossible. Think in English? How? So far, I had always depended on my own language for thinking. Changing this seemed out of the question, but I remembered how I had learned to speak as a child. I didn't apply any form of translation to it, whereupon I saw things and recounted them simply. I saw a cat. I said cat. I felt happy. I said happy. So I decided to do the same from now on, like a newcomer, like a newborn baby. No fear, no in-between stage, no translation. Just straight into English. I started small at first. I looked around, and I named things in my mind. Chair, fan, light, phone, bag. No complete sentences at first, just words in my head, not translated. Introducing activities into the picture. I sit, I eat, I drink, I walk. I spoke these words as I did them myself. And little by little, my mind began to link directly into English. Adding feelings came next. I feel tired. I am excited now. I'm bored. I didn't wait for words from the language I was born to speak. I chose English as my first language. I made my mind immediately think that way. In other words, straight ahead, no mediation, take the English road. I also changed the language on my mobile to English. It was small and simple, but very powerful. Every time I turned it on, it was covered with English. Every button, every message I read, all of it I understood. I lived in it myself. In my mind, I began to think in English. I didn't say those words aloud. I just thought of them. Rigorous mind training. I asked myself short and quick questions, and I replied to myself, "Where are my shoes?" At the door. What should I buy? Milk, bread, eggs. Simple thinking. Simple, but all in English. At first the going was slow, the evening and morning, but each time I felt stronger. On occasion I found myself starting to think in my mother tongue again, but I stopped. I told myself, no, think in English, say it in English. I took a deep breath. I tried it again. Actually, that's how I changed. Not overnight, nor within a week's time. Instead, I just slowly, step by step, trained myself to live in another language. And it worked. The feeling I began to have, there was something new in it. Freedom. I didn't need to depend on translation anymore. I could speak clearly and free as the wind and feel more closely connected to my language. It succeeded in becoming mine, not something to steal from others, not something to seek in books. It was something that I had put together, something I had lived in. One evening, having worked a long business day and retired to bed, I began thinking those thoughts. I realized that every one of them was in English. Today was good. I completed my mission. I have to sleep soon. In the black of night, I smiled. For that is what I wanted to do, to think in English, to speak without interruption, without inhibition, without translation. Author now eking out in English is a little trick I began. I picked any word in English and tried to describe it in English. It is red. It is round. It tastes sweet. English seemingly just floating along leaves me feeling very relaxed. So I chatted away without needing to use a dictionary. I employed words I already knew, relaying my own thoughts, using my own tongue and thinking my own ideas. That is the power of thinking in English. There is no reason to ask, how do I say this? Instead, ask, what do I know how to use? It is from what one possesses that one draws one's vocabulary, and that is what makes communication. I also saw another aspect to this. After I began to think in English, my speaking went a notch smoother. The words came together. I didn't need to pause so often. Think about it. And slowly my Chinese would go out of me, and I understood. Just a feeling would come into my head. And then I also started with something more. I began asking questions about my day. I discovered that the little questions made me desire validity. It didn't have to be perfect or complete. I tried to be as regular as possible every night, just the same way I brushed my teeth without fail every night. Just as when I said good night, I hoped to do my evening English-related talk. Then my voice would drop. My language would become simpler. But still I was speaking, and still I was improving. I never stopped to check my grammar. I never worried about making a mistake. I just kept on talking. With no reluctance or misgivings, I recounted the things I had experienced, what I did, and how I felt. I said that I had felt sleepy in the afternoon. I declared that I had a friend who called me today. I said, laughing in the evening, that I watched a humorous video. These weren't pieces of instruction. They were simply things that had come out of my recollections, whereas now they were out in the open and using English as their carrier media. Some nights I would have finished a tough day and be both tired and speechless. Nonetheless, I would force myself to say something, even if only 1 minute's worth. Even if it was just 5 sentences, I still had something to say. I'm tired. It was a very long day. I could go to sleep happy, knowing that I had just practiced my English. I said these 5 little things. I felt a deep affection for them, and then I went to bed to sleep in peace. I knew I was making progress and secret advances that no one else should know about, for they were mine alone. And when I began this small daily habit, it changed everything, because now every day I had some stories to talk about. I wasn't scrounging for topics. I wasn't merely repeating the old stuff. I was talking about new things each evening, for my own life had become my practice, and this made English real. No less a personal recollection was shown in this. But what change had taken place was inside of me. I didn't know what this change was at the beginning, but one day I suddenly sat down quietly and discovered myself doing things. I spoke one sentence and then the next. I went on to sentence after sentence, and yet there was no pause. I didn't stop to consider, nor did I feel scared. No, I was not afraid. I didn't worry if I said something wrong. Not at all. I simply started talking, just as if it were a matter of course, and of course I spoke in my own way. And it was then that I realized I had already become my own English teacher. I didn't need anyone to exhort me. I didn't need someone to practice every day with because I had already been practicing every day. I was in doubt about how to begin. I was uncertain. I thought I wanted a friend, a tutor, or a class. However, it turned out very simple. Too simple. What I really had to do was speak out loud. Just speak. Even if he was alone, even if nobody was around to hear, even if no one clapped his hands. The real magic was never outside of me. From its beginning to its end, it was always alive in me. I used my mirror and I used my mobile telephone. With the habits I had already picked up, I talked to myself as I walked, I talked to myself while I ate, and I talked to myself while I looked out of the window. I recorded my voice. I talked about my day's activities. I thought out flick scenes. I kept up with movies. I sang songs. I thought about it in my own mind, and I spoke out of my mind. In other words, in my own way, I made English a part of my life. Now when I talk, I don't feel that I'm a student. I feel that I'm a speaker. While my sentences are not perfect, they are strongly felt, and while they don't have the precision of standard prose. And here's another important point I want to make. You can do the same as me. You don't need a perfect accent. You don't need big words. You don't need a language partner sitting in the opposite corner of the world. For you have a partner with you now. That partner is you. You are your teacher, your listener, and your greatest fan. The one who persists. The one who speaks even though being silent. The one who just keeps on. Now what else is there to say? Talk about your day. Talk about your dreams. You've got a mirror. Talk with it. And you've got a heart. Talk with that too. Call out until your voice is hoarse. Shake the dust of hundreds of miles off your back in county after county, and then the words become fluent with it all. Most importantly, and this is the greatest thing of all, the journey never ends. You'll keep growing, you'll keep discovering, and you'll keep on filling up your own surprises. Step by step, just one sentence. Now make a pledge to yourself. Certain as the sun will rise tomorrow. Speak it out, dear friend. Every day, regardless of where you are or anything you're feeling, be sure to keep on speaking. Speak as free as the breeze. Speak with love. Speak with pride. That was a good start, being lonely at first. Now you're just brilliant. You don't need anything more than this, for you already have the start. But continue on. Your English voice will be heard all over. Say it. If this video helped you to become a bit more talkative, good. So let's not stop now. Insert your sentence in the commentary box below. Let's join hands together in becoming used to translating in the evening. One word, one voice, one hearer after another grows. And remember, from us as everyone, especially on video channels, we sure would like you to support your neighbor. This neighbor holds no more than one. Else this ordinary person sitting in a room twice triple-layered cow, happily dreaming on the lonely English journey. You already possess everything required means that one is already well out ahead. There is no turning back. You have started, and now just keep going. Your English heart will be left behind, waiting for you to give voice to it. After a world map is mentioned, some of the things that this stands for, or what has been specifically meant by world map, are such as if you wanted a chart related to the text, e.g., a chart giving a status update on language learning or something similar, information about world maps, or whether this was a mistake. After all, until now, I have not made any charts, as the entry world map does not explicitly ask for them, and the rules themselves do not accommodate charts being drawn with no form of request whatsoever. Please tell me what you would like to do next.